Welcome to the Troy Talk Podcast, your home for anything and everything sports. Sit back, enjoy, and here's your host, Troy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Troy Talk Podcast, your home for USC sports. Today we are previewing our next opponent, the number 6 ranked Oregon Ducks. To call this game big would be an understatement, but we will have you covered as we detail the Oregon team, what I want to see from USC, game predictions, Makai Lemon's chance of the Biletnikoff, and lastly, the Troy Talk picks. Remember to like and subscribe if you are enjoying the content, and I wanted to give a special shout out to the viewers, as the Iowa recap was one of our biggest videos yet. Thank you for the support. Before we get started, I apologize if I sound congested today as I'm a bit under the weather, but in the spirit of this podcast and the game this weekend, we will fight on. All right, let's get it rolling. So if you would have told me that USC had a chance to make the playoffs come game 11 of this season, I would have taken it, run, and said thank you very much. I was definitely bullish on this team, but not super optimistic, but I did predict 9-3. Now, is a must-win game against Oregon how I would prefer to go about fulfilling the goal for the playoffs? Probably not, but you got to beat the best to be the best. Oregon is a very talented team, and I think the spread is hovering around 9.5 right now, and it hasn't really moved a whole lot since the opening. I think it was 7.5 to 9.5, and it's stayed pretty similar there. So Vegas sees this game similar as the Notre Dame game, as the spread was around 10.5 for that one as well. So it's not an exaggeration to say that this is the biggest game of the year. Will USC show up? Remains to be seen, but the team doesn't back down from anybody, and it seems like we always have a chance to win. Just have to play a complete game and play our best game of the year. So just detailing Oregon, we'll start with the offense in general, averaging 39 points per game, which is 7th in the nation, averages 7.36 yards per play, which is 3rd in the nation. And they have a lot of similarities with how Notre Dame operate offensively, not necessarily like scheme-wise as far as like offensive coordinators, but the style that they like to implement. They both love to run the football. They both have really good offensive lines, and they like to control the game that way. As far as quarterback goes, Dante Moore is a very, very polarizing prospect. I wasn't super bullish on him to start the year. He was very hyped up at UCLA, transferred to Oregon, and sat out last year, was the backup last year, and to be honest, has developed nicely. I still am not sure if he's as elite as people think he might be. I don't know if he's like first round draft pick good and is going to translate to the NFL. I'm a little skeptical of how Oregon's offense runs, similar to how USC's offense runs, in that the quarterbacks that do well in there are system based. But Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, his whole tutelage of quarterbacks has done pretty well in the NFL, and obviously Bo Nix is doing pretty well in the first couple of years. So I guess it remains to be seen. But he has really good arm talent and decently mobile, kind of similar to Jane Maiava in that he can run, he can make plays, but he doesn't prefer to do it. He doesn't like to do it. He prefers to throw the ball. But he has 2,190 yards on the season, 21 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And unlike recent games where we've kind of been honing in, like with Iowa, Northwestern, even Michigan to a certain extent, where we've been really honing on the run game and shutting that down and not really worried about the pass game, we do have to be worried about the pass game because he can beat us through the air. As far as running backs, one of the best running games in the country, up there with Notre Dame. 233 yards per game, which is 8th in the nation. They have a 3-headed monster: Noah Whittington, Jordan Davison, and Dyer Hill. As far as the lead back, I guess you'd probably say it's Noah Whittington. He's a senior, 76 carries, 623 yards, and 5 touchdowns with 8.2 yards per carry. So he's more of their all-around back. And you have Jordan Davison, who's a SoCal kid, 66 rushes, 461 yards, and 12 touchdowns for 7 yards per carry. So he's definitely the big back and the one they like to use down in the red zone. And then lastly, they have another freshman, Dyer Hill, who's 49 carries, 424 yards, and 4 touchdowns for 8.7 yards per carry. And he is their speed back, their change of pace back, and he can break one at any stage of the game. As far as wide receiver, Oregon usually has a couple of dynamic receivers with big stats, but not so much this year. Corian Moore was their star coming in. He was a true freshman, but he has been banged up recently, and I think questionable at best for the USC game. I haven't heard of anything updated, but probably doubtful if I were to guess. Kenyon Sadiq is also their kind of big tight end, who's probably going to be an NFL prospect as well. I'm not exactly sure his status for the game, but I've heard, or at least I read somewhere, that there is at least increased optimism that he plays this game. So both of those guys playing would be huge for Oregon, and conversely, if they miss the game, it will help USC a lot as well. Other familiar names, I don't think he's going to play because I think he's injured, but Gary Bryan Jr. is a veteran for them. Some of you may remember him as a USC Trojan. I think he came during the COVID year, was here for 3 years, and has been at Oregon for the last 3 years. But regardless, there's a lot of talent in the room. They're definitely not a pass-first offense, but they can do it, and it's something we have to be aware of. As far as offensive line, Oregon's offensive line, going back to Mario Cristobal, even Chip Kelly, to be honest, it seems like they're always good. They've only allowed 12 sacks this year. They have really, really good run blocking. I mean, Emmanuel Pregnon is their star, which is, a bit unfortunate as he was a former USC Trojan as well, who, commanded a big payday to go up to Oregon, and he's definitely paying off for them, one of PFF's top guards. They also have Isaiah World, who's their giant left tackle, who is also a big transfer portal get this offseason. So they got a lot of talent there. I think a little bit of injuries. I think the right tackle might have been banged up, but it's still going to be, I think, even better offensive line than Notre Dame's was this year. All right. So as far as their defense, one of the best defenses in the country, I would say, very similar to kind of how Iowa was. And we've played a lot of really good defenses recently, and we've had good performances against those defenses, but this could be one of the better ones. Caveat, they have played some anemic offenses this year. Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Penn State. All of those are not great. They did perform well against Rutgers, who does have a high octane passing attack, but struggled against Indiana. I think Indiana dropped 30 on them. But nonetheless, their stats are very good, right? Number 6 scoring defense at 13.7 points per game. Number 21 rushing defense at 108 yards per game, and the number 1 pass defense at 127.3 yards per game. Now, I think that's a little bit skewed because of who they've played, and those teams don't like to pass the ball a lot, but they've also been up in the majority of their games, and teams have had to pass against them, and they're still really good at defending it. Very, very good defense. Defensive line, tons of sacks last year. Not as much this year, but still a good defensive line. Mateo Uyunglele only has 4 so far this year after, I think, 10.5 last season, but still very talented there. Amari Washington is one of the better linemen you will see in the entire country, one of the more athletic big guys. And then obviously you have to mention Bear Alexander, who was once again another USC cast off, and has been one of their better players this year, if I'm being honest. In linebacker, they don't really have like a superstar, but they have a really solid group back there. Brian Bodeker is the name to watch out for. Not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but a very, very good football player with a high IQ and good instincts. He has 77 tackles on the year. They do have Tatum Tuioti, who has 5.5 sacks. I haven't watched a whole lot of Oregon this year, but I would assume that he's more of like the blitzing linebacker, maybe use him off the edge or just up the middle on the blitzes. But 5.5 sacks for a linebacker is pretty dang good. Also, they have some big dudes that eat space well, which is going to like yell up front with Amari Washington. So it allows their linebackers to really feast and they tackle well. So really good group there. And then it continues to be good. Their defensive backs probably, I mean, it's hard to say it's the weakest because they do have some talent here, but maybe the weakest position group out of all the talent that they do have. Dylan Thieneman is their guy, the preseason all Big Ten transfer from Purdue. Smart, heady, always has his eyes going all over the field. He's flying all over the place. Brandon Finney Jr. is the talented freshman to watch out for. Big dude, 6'2", 200 pounds, that will be playing on Sundays if I were to guess. They, like I said, haven't faced a dominating passing attack, so they probably haven't really been tested aside from Indiana, which they gave up some points. So it will be an interesting matchup against, arguably the best wide receiver duo in the entire country. As far as special teams, nothing too much. Atticus Sampington is their senior kicker. Solid, not elite. Can miss kicks, but he is, he has good kicks as well. So what is my prediction? You know what? I'll save this before. I'll go over what I want to see from USC, and then I'll hit you with my prediction. So what do I want to see? Plain and simple, I want to see USC play the best game of their season. We have some history of going up there in the cold and pulling off an upset, and this team has shown as much fight as any team in recent memory. That 2011 game, for those that want some good, happy feelings before the game, go back, rewatch it. It was an awesome performance. But as I said before, we have to play our best game, right? Jaden has shown flashes against good competition, right? Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Michigan. He's had glimpses of just airing the ball out and just destroying defenses. But in those same games, he has had trouble with turnovers, and especially against Texas A&M and Notre Dame. I think he had 3 turnovers in each of those games. So it's going to be very, very important that he protects the football. And I think the tendency is to think that we have to score every possession, and I don't really think that is the case. Sometimes living to fight another day is what wins you football games, and playing the field position game against elite competition is sometimes the way to go. He's definitely going to have to continue to use his legs, and I have a feeling Lincoln will pull out everything in this game. His offensive strategy, which I might touch on a little bit later, it's probably going to be the best or most diverse offensive game plan we've seen this year. It's going to be similar to a conference championship game where you're just like, I need to score it. I don't care if people have film on me. We're going to, our whole arsenal is going to be utilized today. And I think that includes Jaden Mayava running the football. So that's read options, speed options, reverses, all that stuff. It really feels like there's been a trick play literally every game so far. So I doubt it's going to be any different coming up. It's going to be very interesting to see if Waymon Jordan is back this week. He was practicing this week, and I would anticipate that he does play some, but I would guess that King Miller probably starts. You're not going to want Waymon Jordan to get 20 carries right away, especially, in the cold up against Oregon. My guess is you get King Miller for 15, 18 carries, try to get Waymon Jordan 10 carries, and see how we go. But the good news is we could use him out of the backfield on screenplays and just catching the ball, which is something King Miller hasn't done a whole lot of, and Waymond is much better at. As I mentioned, they have a very talented secondary, but no one as good as Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane when they're on their best. If we have a game similar to Northwestern from Jacoby and Makai against Iowa, I think we have a chance. And I'll say it every week until I'm blue in the face. We need to keep continuing to get the tight ends involved. Not only are they dangerous, but it helps take eyes off of Makai and Jacoby. Offensive line is going to have its handful. I mean, especially if Elijah Page is out. I actually haven't read the practice reports too thoroughly this week, but my guess is he's probably going to be a game time decision there because Tobias Raymond has struggled when he has played tackle. I think he's much better at guard, so I prefer him not to have to play tackle, especially against Oregon. Alani Noah has been banged up and hasn't always been performing at the highest level. Kalen Miller, I thought, has been good whenever I've seen him, especially in the pass. I mean, honestly, in both the pass and the run game. And Killian O'Connor is a solid center, although not elite, but having two walk-ons with a chip against their shoulder, that could end up playing in our favor, and they could play up to their competition. It's going to take a team effort, though. It's a really good defensive line and linebacker core that they're going to be going against. As far as the defensive line for us, I mean, Moore is pretty good at evading pressure. He's pretty athletic in that regard, and he also likes to get the ball out quickly. That's just how Oregon's offense runs, but he's not perfect, and it's going to be about stopping the run and hoping that Keyshawn Silver is healthy and that we have some big guys that are healthy and ready for this game. Because if we don't, it's going to be very difficult to at least, get contact on the runners within the line of scrimmage. Because I think I saw some stat where we're like 127th in yards, like yards before contact, meaning we don't hit the running back until he gets to like 3 or 4 yards downfield, more or less. So I think you'll see a lot of 3-down linemen, and we might have to sacrifice a little bit of pass rush to play the run game. We cannot get pushed back like we did against, in Iowa in the second quarter. Because we just don't have the linebackers to make up for it. And it's going to be another team effort, and it's going to have to be a selfless effort. I always harp on the run fits and that you can't be the hero. You just need to play your role and let the linebackers be in a good position behind you, and that's what the defensive line has to do this week. Good thing is Anthony Lucas is playing his best ball, and we're going to need it to continue this week. Eric Gentry loves big games, and we're going to need some magic from him too. And I'll say like another broken record for me, but Desmond Stevens continues to get better. And we cannot have a repeat of Notre Dame game, which he was not great in. No linebackers were great in that game. So we need to see what we've been seeing recently in the last couple games. As far as Jaden Walker, I wanted to, like I shouted him out in the recap podcast last time. He had a great game, probably his best game as a Trojan last week. And we're going to need him to be big because he's a physical. He loves to tackle, loves to hit. And he's going to need to be cerebral in the run game. We know he can tackle, we know he can hit, but he has to get the right gaps and has to hit the right hole and make sure he wraps up. As far as the safeties, I mean, man, that's going to be the biggest question mark today. At a surface level, it's likely Bishop Fitzgerald is not playing. Kamari Ramsey, again, probably another game time decision, but if I were to guess, probably not going to play. And if he does, it'll be limited. But Christian Pierce is built for this game. Kennedy Urlacher is built for this game. They both love to play run support. They love to hit. And they both showed really great instincts against Iowa last game and showed up when we needed them the most. But who knows? You may see some unfamiliar faces for depth purposes and rotational purposes this game. Maybe some D. Reddick, maybe some Marquise Gallegos, who also loves to hit. Whatever it is whatever it takes to win this game. I think you'll see it from D'Anton Lynn here. But speaking of question marks, I mean, what do we do about the nickel position, right? If Kamari Ramsey, who's been playing predominantly nickel position, how do we solve that, right? And I think we probably can get away with mostly playing 4-3. So, but Oregon can throw, so you can't play 4-3 if they're going to go 4 wide and throw the football. So you might see a little bit of Eric Gentry in the nickel position. You might see D. Reddick. You might see Alex Graham. He's starting to get a little bit more snaps as he progresses and recovering from that rib injury. So it'll be very interesting to see what D'Anton Lynn schemes up there. As far as the defensive backs, I mean, just keep it up. I think we've been more than solid the last couple games, but this is going to be their biggest test since the Notre Dame game, which they were actually pretty good in. Love their involvement in the run game. I mean, DeCarlos Nicholson loves to hit. Braylon Conley loves to hit. I mean, even Marcellus Williams, for not being the biggest guy, also loves to hit. So that's not something I'm worried about. Special teams, I said it last week against Iowa because I know how Iowa is, that special teams is super important. Again, on the road, special teams is even more important because you cannot put yourself in bad positions like we did last week early in the first half against Iowa, where they were having short field and scoring quickly. I anticipate Ryan Sari is going to keep it up. He's nails. Sam Johnson shows flashes of being a really good punter, and other times maybe not so much, but I believe in them, and I think they'll have a good game. So in summary, offense probably has to hang 30 on Oregon, and we probably have to keep them from scoring 30. And it sounds simple and it sounds silly, but I think that's it. If we score more than 30, we probably win. If we score less than 30, we probably don't. I think that's the magic number for me. D'Anton Lynn's going to have to be ready and ready quickly. We cannot have repeats of Notre Dame, Illinois, and honestly, even Iowa, where we start off super, super slow and get behind early. I think we'll likely need about 2 turnovers to win this game. So who that comes from, I don't know. My prediction will probably be like an Eric Gentry, maybe like a strip sack from Eric Gentry, and who knows, maybe like a Desmond Stevens interception like he did against Penn State. Need to protect the ball. I already talked about that. I think I'll predict a Mayava TD with his legs. I think that's very important. And we're going to need to force Oregon to throw. And they're not bad at throwing, but we cannot let them control the game on the ground, or else it's going to be a long, long game, and we're going to get really tired on defense, especially with our lack of depth. But as far as my prediction, I said it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be a homer here. I'm going to be, if I was completely objective, I predict 34-27. I think USC will be competitive, or at least hang with them a little bit. But I just think our run defense is not nearly good enough to combat their run offense. But that being said, USC can win this game. I say it all the time. They're able to beat anybody on their schedule. And if they play their best game and their most complete game and their run defense is on its toes, then we can beat Oregon. And if we do beat Oregon, we're going to have a lengthy conversation about playoff situations next week during the, maybe even during the recap or the preview next week. All right, quick transition. Makai Lemon's Biletnikoff hopes. So the semifinalists were announced for the Biletnikoff, which is the basically wide receiver of the year. Some really talented receivers there. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, list goes on and on. But Lemon has the best stats for the most part, and rumor has it that Jeremiah Smith's banged up, and I think that's probably his biggest competition. So if Lemmon continues to play, especially if he has a big game against Oregon, I think that goes a long way, and people are starting to take notice that he is one of the best receivers in the nation, statistically and just like from an eye test as well. So I predict that he probably will win it if he continues on the trajectory he's doing, but Jeremiah Smith does have a lot of hype around him, so it will be close, I predict. All right, so Troy Talk picks to round it out. Hawaii at UNLV -2.5. Actually, before we get into that, 35-28 on the year. I think we're like 4.19 units. 5-0 last week. What do you say about going 5-0 this week? I say why not, right? Why not us? But yeah, going back to it. Hawaii at UNLV -2.5. Hawaii away from the island is definitely not as good as on the island. UNLV likes to play at home, even though I don't think they're like that good of a football team, but they like to score a lot, and I think it'll be a score fest, probably 60-plus points, and under a field goal, I like UNLV here. Missouri State at Kennesaw State, under 58.5 here. I have a lot of Missouri State in my picks recently, and I feel like I've lost every one of them, but this one I really like. It's under a key number of 58. Kennesaw does run tempo, but Missouri State is just like a sound, solid team, and they're not really fast. They don't score a whole lot, and they just keep everything close. So I anticipate this to be a close, maybe like a 30-27 game kind of thing. Next will be Eastern Carolina at Texas San Antonio. This is going to be over 61.5. I know that's a big number, but both these teams have tempo. Both these teams like to score a lot of points, and UTSA does score a lot of points at home. So I really like it there. I'm going to go to an under next. I think it's New Mexico at Air Force under 55.5. Air Force lost their quarterback, or he's not playing this week, and both of them like to run the football a lot. So hopefully it's a really fast game, low scoring, and we get to the window there. And then, like last week, we're going to go with the parlay to end it because that seems to be our good luck charm. We're going to go Washington again, Old Dominion, and Vanderbilt money line. And I think that's about hovers around like -107. So hopefully we get another one of those, another 1 unit play, go 5-0, start to gain a little bit of momentum, and hopefully USC continues the momentum they're on and beats the Oregon team. So just want to say once again, thank you for the support. Be on the lookout for come signing day in a couple weeks. We'll be dropping some recruiting content, both the offense and defense, just kind of recapping the class. That should be fun there. And obviously be on the lookout for a recap podcast this weekend. Goal is to try to do it Saturday if I can, since I think this is more like this game is either at 12:30 or 4:30. I can't remember, but it's not going to be a late game, so maybe I can get it done. But if not, it'll be out Sunday morning. So be on the lookout for that. And once again, if you need anything, you know where to contact me, troytalk3@gmail.com. And hopefully next time I'm talking to you, we're 10-2. We finally beat Oregon, got the monkey off our back, and we are having some uncomfortable but good uncomfortable conversations about possibly a playoff situation. Until then, we will see you again next time, and I hope you have a wonderful night.